Recording. Network. Here we go. Mhm. There you are. Hello, hello, and good evening. I had no idea that I would be going up against Super Bowl, but guess what? It's okay. I'm trying to be obedient. So I hope this finds you all well this evening. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join me. My name is Dr. Williams, aka Queen, and well, I've started this new series called MIMS, Making It Make Sense, right? So I grew up being taught things about the Bible, maybe like you did as well. And we were asked to memorize verses, one of them being the 23rd Psalm and Psalm 91. And so now that I memorized that, and I've used that Psalm throughout my life. And now I'm passing it on to the other kids, and I am having them memorize all these different Psalms and all these different things in the Bible. Then it dawned upon me like, wait a minute, what does all these things actually mean? We say the verses, we memorize them, but with all my education, be it medical doctor, serving in the military, both enlisted and officer, and there's some things in the Bible that I still don't quite understand, right? So I'm just memorizing to memorize it, and then there are some things that I can understand, and then there's some things I don't. So, because of that, I wanted to just start talking about what it is that I'm experiencing and what it is that I have questions about. So, reach out to other people in your family, your friends, just tell them to join in between the Super Bowl, in between the Super Bowl. But these are questions that I have of myself. And, the Holy Spirit rested upon me that maybe I'm not the one. I'm not the only one who has these questions. So for about 15 minutes, unless there are questions from you guys, I'm just going to jump into talking about some of the questions I have about Psalm 23. I don't know about you, but there's some things and some imagery that are used that I cannot relate to. So I want to start to do this, breaking things down and just seeing how I can get closer to God by understanding his words, right? There's no way I can be close to someone if I don't know what they're about, their favorite color, the things they like to eat. Well, this is my way of trying to understand God because the imagery and the metaphors that he used were more for that time. Okay, so now I'm just going to jump into it and I'm going to go through some of the questions I have. And if you have the same questions, I welcome you to just put your questions in the chat, say, hello, I'll bring it on screen in between. But just send this out to folks, have them jump on. I would love to hear what you think about this. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. You know, I'm a planner. I have to have some outline, just little prompts so we can discuss some stuff. Okay, so please share the link, invite others, and let's get into the word on this Sunday. And just so you know, I'll make this every Sunday. This is my way of trying to practice the word and get closer to God by these little snippets. And what better time to do this than Sunday evenings at 6? All right, so let's jump into some of the things that I have here. So this is a Bible review, and my Gotti typically say, make it make sense. Make it make sense. No, so I took that from her in saying, I want things to make sense. Just make it make sense. So these series of making it make sense, As I go through this, you'll see exactly what I mean. Is trying to understand some of the imagery that was used in the Bible and how we can make it work for where we are today. So, Psalm 23. Do you know Psalm 23? I've been saying Psalm 23 since I was a kid. My parents made me say, memorize it. Now I'm passing it on, as I said before. But every time I hear this, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, right? And I'm saying, okay, wait a minute. The Lord is my shepherd. Well, is there another way I can phrase that? Because I don't know about you, but I've never really seen a shepherd. I grew up in the Caribbean, and we do have like wild goats and some wild animal, but no sheep. So there's no shepherd. I remember my grandfather, we had a cow or two, and he would take the cow to the bush, leave the cow there, and then come home and then go back in the evening to go get the cow. But I've not seen any sheep. I've never heard of shepherd. So I was like, okay, maybe the other translation in the Bible will have something. So I looked up the Lord is my shepherd, 23rd Psalm, I shall not want. And the NIV, it said the same thing. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. The Message translation says, God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. Great. The New King James Version said the same thing. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But each time shepherd is mentioned, and I don't know a shepherd, I don't know much about sheep, and I don't know what this is truly all about. So I wanted to look more into shepherd and what shepherd is really about. So I started to dig, and I grew up in the city, and I have not seen any shepherd in the city. Have you? Do you know a shepherd? And even if you think you read and you know a shepherd, there's so much importance that's placed on shepherd. Would it be the same importance as is placed on someone who has a high level, the principal of a university or big time CEO? There's just so much emphasis in the Bible about shepherd, but I have no idea where to see a shepherd in the United States. If you live in the United States and you've seen a shepherd or know where I can see a shepherd and talk to a shepherd about what they do, let me know in the chat. But I grew up almost like in the concrete jungle, if you will, in Kingston, where I'm from. And then when I came to America, I've always like lived in the city. So I don't know what a shepherd is. So I started to dig. I said, I wanted to know more. I want to know more about shepherd, because if you're saying that God is like a shepherd to me, then I need to understand what a shepherd does and who a shepherd is. So then I know I don't see shepherd in the city, and I've never really seen a shepherd in real life. So I get to thinking even more. All right. So, um, what do I know about sheep? What do you know about sheep? I've always heard people refer to sheep as, well, sheep, they're not very smart, that the sheep will they'll follow each other over the edge of a cliff. Um, so I don't really know much about sheep. I've never seen or pet a sheep or been around a sheep. Have you? Let me know in the chat. What do you know about a sheep? So I wanted to dig more into this. I wanted to know more about sheep because I am a sheep according to the Bible, but I don't know what type of characteristic I'm supposed to have, right? So what exactly is a sheep? Looking more into that, the Lord is my shepherd. So I want to know, why is sheep so important? Why was it so important back in the day? There's some practical things about sheep that I didn't know about. So the sheep has a practical importance in that it was a source of sustenance. So the sheep, they provide meat and of course milk, and they were essential food sources. They also, they did milk. But nowadays we think about milk, it's you go to the store, you buy some milk. There's some folks who now has mechanized milking cows, but back then, the sheep was like an all around sort of source of sustenance. Meat, milk, you can use the milk to produce to produce yogurt and cheese and other things. So how does that relate to me as being a sheep of Christ? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Sheep was also used for clothing and textile. Wool, they used that to make clothing. They use that as also when they make clothing to sell and to make money. Sheep was also seen as economic value, in that the more sheep you have, you're considered to be a rich person. And then there is agricultural utility, meaning when you take the sheep out to graze, you didn't have to pay anyone to keep the grass down, because the sheep was out there grazing on the grass, and they were keeping all that stuff down. So there were some practical importance to a sheep back in the day. So I'm supposed to be a sheep, and the good shepherd is shepherding me. So am I doing the stuff I'm supposed to do? There was also a religious significance. So the religious significance to the sheep was that the sheep were the sacrificial offering. They were a symbol of purity and innocence. And the shepherd imagery was one that's always used again with God, in that he protects the sheep, he guides the sheep. But how does that relate to us today? And it's used in parables all the time. So, in thinking about the sheep and the shepherd, I had a question. Why did the psalmist say, "The Lord is my shepherd"? Why didn't he said that the Lord is like a mother, or that the Lord is like a father, or the Lord is, it does say the Lord is a father, but why don't they say the Lord is like a parent? Why shepherds? What is it about the shepherd and their flock versus a mother or a parent and their children? Like, why is that not used back then? So I got to dig in. And what I found out was, as you know, back then it was a patriarchal society, and the men, they were responsible for providing for the family. And so when you have a sheep, or you have lots of sheep, that was like money. That was like going to work every day and bringing home the paycheck. So they wanted to be sure they protect the sheep. Now, here's a question that jumped up to me. I don't know if you'd had the same question. In the Bible, they talk about how David would do slay a lion and a bear to protect the sheep. I don't know that I would hurt or kill anyone over a lamb, right? I struggle with that portion. Like, wow, how important that must be for David to kill a lion, y'all, a lion over a sheep, and then to kill a bear. Like, seriously? Like, wow, that is amazing. That is how much the shepherd care about their lamb. Now, in today's society, we're like, well, what would I go that bananas over? And that's where the whole picture about being a mother comes up. I've seen a lot of stories or heard a lot of things about mothers going after a bear, or fighting to protect their young ones. So it's a matter of, okay, well, if a shepherd will do that, a mother could do the same. Now, this is my struggle trying to understand a shepherd and why it is a shepherd would go bananas over their lamb and protecting the sheep and all of that. Now, the sheep can't protect themselves. So, in looking at this, I came across some imagery where the gentleman over here, you can see, is carrying the sheep across his shoulder. And over here, you can see they're shepherding. But if you look here, you'll see the mother also holding their child close, protecting their child. So, would it be a fair thing to say that God saying that the Lord is my that the David saying the Lord is my shepherd, and I'm still at just the first line, the Lord is my shepherd. Is that the same as saying, well, the Lord is like my mom and that the Lord is nurturing, the Lord will protect me? Does that translate to be about the same? What do you think? Right? Because again, I don't know shepherd. I don't know how to relate to a shepherd. So I want to know, what about using the imagery of a mother? Would that be about the same? Would I be watering down information? Interesting. So I decided, well, I'm trying to look at the sheep, being that the sheep is really doesn't have much sense according to what I could find out. Not the smartest animal, cannot protect themselves. And I look at the comparison with a sheep versus a baby. The baby, they are so, there's nothing a baby can do to protect itself. And sometimes it just really cringe for me to think about a lion going after a baby. There's really nothing that can be done. So yeah, in that sense, now I can see why David would go after a lion and like, no, let go my baby. This is, so that makes sense to me if we're looking at the shepherd to that as a mom. So let's, or even as a father, as a parent. So if that's the case, then let's see what the comparison would be between a sheep and a baby. So, one, there's dependency. If you think about a baby, the baby rely entirely on the mother or caregiver for food, comfort, protection during their early stage of life, right? Very, 100%. There's nothing a baby can do. You look in the animal kingdom, the baby can't even walk. There are some animals that are born and they're at least able to walk, not so for the baby. You compare the baby to a sheep. The sheep also needs a shepherd for protection and guidance and sustenance, as they are highly vulnerable and they are predators and they easily get lost and they can wander off. And I'm thinking, like, okay, I get that part, the wandering off. Because I remember having my niece once and we went out to an aquarium during the summer, crowded as can be. And I tell you the truth, I let go of her hand to put something in my purse. And by the time I turn around, gone. I've never felt that panicky. I know it maybe have been 10 seconds, but for me, it felt like an eternity, just gone, drifted off. And I'm like, well, a sheep does the same thing. I heard that sheep, they'll follow each other over a cliff. But God, the good shepherd, protects the baby. So we have to be dependent on God. So just like the sheep is dependent on the shepherd, we are also dependent on God. Now that makes sense to me. That's MIMS. It's making sense. I'm just like a baby, so I have to depend on God. The other thing is guidance. Baby without proper nurturing, baby can't do anything. No, cannot learn anything, no life skills, developmental stage. There's just nothing a baby can do. Same thing for the sheep, right? Without a shepherd, a sheep will wander aimlessly and may follow other sheep into dangers. Now, the thing is, it depends on the age of the child. There is really not much of a following per se. The baby will just wander. The child would just wander, be it just following somewhere else or just aimlessly wandering around, right? So that's one of the other things that I have to take into consideration here is that we need guidance. So without a shepherd, the sheep will wander, same for the baby. So I'm trying to relate sheep to baby and how it is that we need that protection from that time. Okay, so what else is there? So the third thing out of the five is the helplessness. Baby completely dependent on the caregiver for survival, unable to communicate, right? Well, the baby will cry if needs food, but can't protect itself effectively. Don't know how to do anything except cry. It's the same thing for the sheep, defenseless and unable to forage without guidance. The sheep can't even find food on their own. So they do need that guidance. They do need that shepherd. They do need that protection um, from other things. And it's the same way it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. I need guidance. I'm like a baby too. I need God to guide. I'm helpless in a lot of situation, and that's tough for some people to say or think that they are helpless. It's like we try to do everything on our own until we get to a point where we feel as though we're helpless, when the truth is we've probably been helpless all along. All along we've been helpless. So the fourth thing in the comparison of the baby to the sheep is the innocence and the trust, relying entirely on a mother for food, comfort, protection during their early stage of life. Again, though, whenever you try to take a baby away from this mother, the baby knows the mother or the father's voice. So there is that separation where they're not able to fully um, recognize other. They're absolutely innocent. They trust their parents at any stage when they're in that youth up to 2 years old. They look to their parents for guidance. They look to their parents for other things too, right? So, in thinking about the sheep and God being the shepherd, the sheep also need the shepherd for protection, for guidance. The big difference, though, is that the sheep always need that, even as an adult. But do I also always need that? We seem to think that once we're no longer a baby and we're in adulthood, that we really don't need certain things anymore. Like we could do things on our own. Don't you get that feeling? But yet, 23rd Psalm is saying, the Lord is my shepherd. And so there's that innocence and trust that we have to rely on. As we get more into the 23rd Psalm, I'll go through this more throughout the sun. Again, we'll be doing this every Sunday, just trying to make it make sense, making the word make sense. The simple things that even as a medical doctor, from enlisted to lieutenant colonel retired, I struggle with some of these imagery because there's nothing around us today to help us understand what some of these things mean. So the innocence and the trust that you'll see in a baby is the innocence and trust that's also in a sheep. And the shepherd has to look over the sheep regarding that. Okay. So then there is the care requirement. There is always that care requirement, right? The baby needs continuous nurturing and attention and developmental, appropriate growth, and in order to thrive. The sheep needs the same thing. So when you're thinking of yourself when it comes to needing God, I think it would be appropriate to think of yourself like a baby who you need your parents, you need the shepherd to um, guide you. You need more from just, it's not just you are, we try to be so independent, right? But we truly need God in everything. And I'm using the comparison of a sheep versus a baby because I was struggling to understand what a sheep is. I didn't grow up around sheep. I don't know what a shepherd does. We are in this technology driven age where we have all of these things around us that is just not relatable. So I want the Bible to make sense for me in today's word, not watering it down, but trying to understand what some of these things truly mean. And I see here, I have a comment from, let's see here, it says, Connie, like the shepherd is to his sheep, we are to God, right? Yes. So that's what we're talking about. So the sheep, God is doing the sheep, but that's who we are as well. And people have difficulty thinking of themselves in that capacity. So here is what we're coming down to. God is the good shepherd, right? And for a good shepherd, the sheep need their shepherd for sustenance and safety. So I need God for sustenance and safety. And the psalmist emphasized that humans thrive when they're guided, protected, and provided for by God. And so, no matter how successful you may be by definition, I think I'm a success by any definition used in today's society. That is to say, I have served in the military, I did the enlisted portion, I went through, became an officer, retired, I went through medical school, I did all those years of schooling, but I have to and did a lot throughout that time rely on God to provide for me in a lot of different capacity. So not only did I need God to help me when I came to this country, when I didn't really have an example set before me, he put people in my path who could help me to be who I am today. So it's a reminder of God's care, a call to embrace trust and security in divine provision. So I am all about just trying to learn more about this God, learning how I'm a sheep and how I am able to relate to God. And I see that Alana is on here from O'Fallon. Thank you for joining as well, Alana. I appreciate you. So we're coming down to the end here. So in trying to understand this, sometimes we go to different version of the Bible, but the different version of the Bible keeps saying the same thing, right? So the NIV, the New King James Version, is saying the Lord is my shepherd. So if you go to the NIV, it says the same thing, shepherd. You go to the Message translation, it says the same thing, shepherd. You go to the New King James Version, it says the same thing, shepherd. So I think it's important that we know what a shepherd is and who are sheep and what why the importance on sheep. I don't think I even still touch the crux of it, right? Because honestly, making it make sense will make me go to the Bible more. I can't relate to taking the sheep out and shepherding. And I'm a physician. I deal with with cancer patients. I deal with insurance stuff. I deal with all these other stuff. I don't know. And even though I've traveled other places, I still have not come upon a shepherd. So if the Bible see that the shepherd is important and talking about sheep is important, then I think it's important for me to understand what that means, right? So, with that being said, though, this whole time, 15 minutes I spent just talking about the shepherd and sheep, and I still did not get to the I shall not want. And that's just Psalm 23, verse 1. And we say Psalm 23 all the time out of rote memorization, but never really look at what this means. And that's what the Sunday at 6 session is all about. Really just trying to understand and making the Bible relatable. So when it says, I shall not want. So if I see myself as a baby, if I shall not want, now we're not talking about needs because God meet all our needs. But when it says I shall not want, in my mind, I see I shall not want as like a baby whom the baby never have to cry, right? Because God is my good shepherd. He's gonna feed me on time, be it every 4 hours I don't have to worry about my diapers need to be changed because the minute I poop in my diapers, he's gonna change it. I don't have to worry about crying about that. That's what I'm talking about when it says, I shall not want. So if God is my shepherd and I shall not want, I know it's going to take care of everything. And everybody has different needs at different levels in their lives, right? So, yeah, I'm a doctor, so my needs will be different than someone who works in finance. It'll be different from someone who's a stay at home mom, but God knows it all. If we can see ourselves as sheep, those not so smart animal, and that's where the issue comes in for a lot of us. Huh? That dumb animals that would lead over the edge of the stuff. Yes, that is who we are. That is exactly who we are. And that is tough. That is so tough. But let me tell you the truth. That's exactly who we are. That's who we are. So if I can see myself as a sheep or I can see myself as a baby, then the ego will be out. And I've heard some folks say that ego is edging God out. It will help me deal with that pride if I can see myself like a dumb sheep. I said it. With all my degrees and strategies and all of that stuff, and oh my goodness, Lieutenant Colonel, retired military. No, I am just like a sheep. Praise Jesus. And I am happy being in that capacity. I am okay with that because I know if I humble myself and stay in that arena, then I won't be forced to edge God out or act like I know everything. I don't have to do that because I know God is going to feed me, is going to make sure I'm eating on time, he's going to take me to graze in the right place, he's going to change me in the right, if I mess up, God is going to take care of me. And I know as a living witness from where God brought me from the streets, from the ghetto, from wherever. And he brought me here to America after high school. And I served in the military, enlisted, and he brought me through ROTC and he brought me through medical school. And I'm a biochemistry major. Let me tell you, that's a tough subject to have or thing to have as a to have a good grade in. That was I'm prone to say specialty, but that was my major in college. And there's no way I could have done that. No way I could have done that by myself, right? So we want to try not to edge God out of what it is we're going through. So the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. And next week, we're going to look at verse 2 and 3. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lay down in green pastures. Like who lay down in green pastures? What does that mean, laying down in green pastures? He restores my soul. What is my soul? That's an ongoing. A lot of folks don't understand that there are three parts. There's the body, the soul, and the spirit. So when we're going into Psalm 23 and we're taking Psalm 23 apart, and the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He make me to lie down in green pastures. We just say these things out of rote memorization, but truth be told, it's like, seriously, like, what do you mean lay down in green pastures? I've not done that. I don't know about you. So let's see here. Alana said, you, the sheep, entrust every single need to your shepherd, as you know your shepherd will never fail you. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for that word. Yes. So today we just kept it simple. We really just wanted to look into understanding some of the basics, the stuff we memorize all the time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lay down in green pastures. And we really don't know what a shepherd is, what a shepherd does. What does a sheep really stands for? What does he mean laying down in green pastures in today's time and society? So that's what we're going to be doing. Sundays at 6 Central Time, 7 Eastern Time. Join me next week as we continue to go through this very common Psalm 23, and we'll be doing other things in other parts of the Bible. This is my way of learning, so it's helping me to stay in the Word as well and just trying to make it make sense. Thank you for joining me for making it make sense on this Sunday. I hope to see you next Sunday at 6. Invite your friend, invite your family. I know I'm going up against Super Bowl, but that's okay. I'm just trying to be obedient. I hope this was educational and fun for you. So until next time, you be blessed. May God bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and bring you peace. See you next week, same time. Bye. And thanks again for joining. Oh, before I forget, on Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesday, we'll be doing the same thing, only we'll be breaking it down on health topics. So see you Tuesday when we try to make things make sense in the health arena. Thanks again for joining. Bye, everyone.